Hartlik welkom by nog 'n episode van Agri Monitor. Dit is vandag Dinsdag die 11de Oktober. Nou ja, die skoue is agter die rug. Verlede week die Landboukongressie hier in Windhoek gewees. Die Landbouvooruitskouingskonferensie is agter die rug. En nou is dit al die pad afdraand na die einde van die jaar toe. Maar eerskomende naweek nog weer 'n lekker landbougebeurtenis en dit is naamlik die NLI Agri Braai wat daar op Mariental plaasvind Vrydag en Saterdag. Nou toe bly ingeskakel vir 'n volgende halfuur of wat, want ons het sommer 'n lekker vol program vir julle. Ons kyk eerstens na 'n onderhoud wat gevoer is by die 13de gewone sitting van die Afrika-waterraad vir ministers, wat op die oomblik hier in die hoofstad in Windhoek plaasvind. En dan verskuif ons die fokus so bietjie na die Midde-Ooste en gesels Jannie Holtzhausen, wat die voormalige uitvoerende hoof van Spinneys in Dubai was, met ons oor moontlikhede vir Namibiese produsente om lams en beesvleis na die Midde-Ooste se markte uit te voer. Nou, hy was een van die sprekers by die Landbouvooruitskouingskonferensie. En ook by hierdie konferensie was natuurlik die Landbouminister, meneer Calle Schlettwein, aan die woord, en hy het 'n bietjie gesels oor mietkou, wat natuurlik 'n groot brandpunt op die oomblik is in die landboubedryf, as ook oor die groen skemas en oor hoe sy ministerie voel oor mynbou-aktiwiteite deur die Russiese Iran maatskappy daar in die Leonardville omgewing, dit natuurlik ook in die Stampriet-akwifer of die groot Stampriet-artesiese kom. Dit dan in vandag se uitsending.
Funding part of it and the risk aspects that are related to the potato production is also
member states on water issues, and this is the forum where the agenda on water and sanitation in Africa is usually decided upon annually or reviewed annually in order to reflect on what we've achieved, where the challenges are, and then be able to take decisions that can help us overcome the challenges that we are facing and also address emerging issues. I mean, this year alone, we'll take, for instance, in Southern Africa, we've had excessive rainfall that has caused quite a lot of damage. We've had a cyclone that has destroyed infrastructure. The other parts of Africa have had the same, in Mauritania, in Cameroon, and other countries as well. Then by contrast, you go to Central and Eastern Africa, the Horn of Africa, where 20 million people are facing starvation because of delayed rains and a drought situation. So the African Ministers' Council bring together all the ministers responsible for water affairs to deliberate these issues. Where Kenya and Djibouti and Eritrea are facing drought, we are probably dealing with excess water where we are. And working together, we can put in place early warning systems that can help us be able to deal with this situation, not as a country, because these are not situations that you can manage at country level, but it goes beyond the countries, because the water that is flooding Mozambique is probably coming from elsewhere in the basin, and the water that is where the water has dried up, the food is not necessarily that feeds the entire population, is not necessarily produced in that country, so it comes from somewhere else. So by thinking water, by together with agriculture or food security, thinking about it from the terms of energy, because the dams that have been swept away by excess rainfall in Malawi, for instance, was generating power that was connecting or that was producing power for industrial production. So if it's not there anymore, we're having an issue. So we would like to bring together this thinking of water, energy, food security, and environmental security in order to be able to promote regional cooperation on our water resources, to be able to promote well-being, because sanitation is what leads to the well-being and productivity of the labor force, and also look at other aspects that go beyond that. An unsettled population, a hungry population, is going to be an agitated population. So even for elements of peace and stability, you will find that there are linkages from what these ministers are going to be deliberating here to what will happen in the stability of our population. So that's what is bringing us here. This is a very important meeting, coming off the COVID-19 pandemic, and then having a year that has been with extremes of weather contributing to circumstances that can destabilize our populations and also are leaving our people removed from service of basic services that they already had but have been destroyed because of extreme water disasters. So that, I think that in a nutshell covers what.
Market or the Arab market not easy. We've not been super successful with that. A lot of the lamb that they eat are specialized. Like I've read the study that was done by Hartleaf and the guys, very comprehensive. Fat tail lamb, very popular, but we don't sell it in supermarkets. They transport it live in there. The main source of the lambs for them would be Sudan, Ethiopia, Jordan, Syria. They're all in trucking distance. The distances between them and the UAE and Saudi is probably the distance between here and Durban Harbour, 2,000 kilometers roughly. And they transport them by trucks and they slaughter them as they need them, and they have their own little network and how they sell them. In Saudi Arabia, where I now do a bit of consulting work for the last year, they sell in the supermarkets the fat tail lamb, and they sell at a premium of about 50% to imported lamb from Australia or New Zealand. So there may be an opportunity if we know how to break into that market. So Horeca, a difficult market. To be blunt, quite a corrupt market. Not easy to deal with that market. No single ownership, lots of individual people that manage those things, and there are a couple of really good wholesalers or suppliers that broke into that market. If you want to consider that, I wouldn't suggest that you even try to go directly into a Horeca market. You should consider to deal with one of the people that you have there. And the contract market, contract labor market, I have already touched on. I would not do that. So if you want to deal with the Middle East, it has to be halal. There is absolutely no ways that you can send any protein into the Middle East without being halal. Halal used to be highly politicized up to about 8 years ago. When I say politicized, they used halal and halal certification sometimes to further their relationships with certain lands, countries, and make it impossible for you to get a halal certification that is approved by the halal authority in Abu Dhabi. That has gone away to a large degree at the moment. It is not that complicated to do things halal. And if you're concerned about the local market reaction to having abattoirs that do halal, my suggestion would be to follow the technique that in the US I used to import quite a lot of turkeys. And there's two big turkey producers, Butterball, sit in the southern part of America, Carolina, and then you have Jannie that sits in Philadelphia, Minnesota. And there was, after 9/11 and with the invasions of Iraq, there was a lot of political problems for Butterball, and they stopped to produce halal turkey because the American market said we don't want to be forced to eat halal meat. Jannie in Minnesota was outright on that. And what they did was to produce halal turkeys for 2 days a week and gave the public the assurance that those meat will all be exported or would go to specialized retailers and it will not be mixed. So it is not something that is impossible to deal with. You just have to be honest about that. You have to be upfront, and people have to understand what the problem is and what you do if that is a problem. It don't seem to be a problem in South Africa. I've not seen a lot of pushback towards halal meat. My opinion is that a lot of the meat that is sold as normal meat in South Africa, also halal. I don't think there's any poultry producer that produce anything that is not really, or we do halal right in South Africa, but that is not halal. So I think it's not a problem. You could certainly deal with that.
The 2022 Agri Outlook Conference is the first of its kind to have been jointly organized by all farmers' unions in the sector. That is the Namibian National Farmers Union, the Namibia Emerging Commercial Farmers Union, the previously disadvantaged Namibian Farmers Union, and the Namibia Agricultural Union. This partnership approach must continue, and it must continue well in the future. Underperformance of key institutions in the sector needs to be urgently addressed in order to realize value and serve farmers better. This is in specific reference to the meat-go business, sustainability, and the market outreach to all farmers, particularly in the northern communal areas, the NCA, and AMTA's role to better support increasing market access for agronomic and horticultural producers, particularly for small-scale farmers. These two institutions are not serving the farming community optimally, and it needs to be redressed speedily and boldly. To date, about 60% of potable water for households and industrial use, and agriculture is included, is groundwater. The policy position is that no harmful mining activities and drilling and in situ leaching activities and discharging pollutants into these aquifers should be allowed. This is particularly the case for the current proposed exploration drilling activities in the Stampriet area, and there are similar activities in other aquifers possible. We need to strengthen this policy and safeguard our water resources, because it is not for nothing that we say water is life. We cannot only look at self-sufficiency. We must strive to produce surpluses and maintain current market access and become, as a whole, an export-driven economy. Our population and our market is too small to absorb all what we produce. So export-driven agriculture is an equally important policy initiative. To this end, the Ministry has, through collective decision, we have commenced with a process of repurposing the green schemes by offering their operation and productive utilization to the private sector, to private sector operators through a competitive bidding process. We have published a number of requests for proposals for green schemes that are brownfield projects, for green schemes that are green scheme projects, and I hope that we get the best bids from our own farmers so that we utilize what we have created for our own purposes and our own gains. Last week, a proposition for an agricultural chamber was put forth, born out of the 2020 Agricultural Conference, at which all stakeholders gathered. Here unanimously passed a resolution to form a representative chamber of agriculture. Regrettably, the chamber architecture put forth has come without all necessary inclusivity. This apparent polarization, I advise, must be addressed by the leadership of all farmers' unions to bring forth a unified voice in the sector. We can only be more inclusive if unity in diversity is the common ground for our actions going forward. And I see this conference is an indication that it is indeed possible. The potential of the agricultural sector must be greatly unleashed to drive thousands of our inhabitants out of poverty and joblessness through achieving a more inclusive growth and raising the share of agricultural's gross domestic product contribution. Since the dissipating effects of the 2019 drought and the outlook of the COVID-19 pandemic, the agricultural sector has demonstrated its resilience as one of the few sectors which sustained a positive growth trajectory, just anchoring current and future economic recovery prospects. The current high-frequency data obtained from the second quarter gross domestic GDP contributions for 2022 indicate that the sector's real output, that's the agricultural sector's real output, expanded by about 2% on a year-on-year since the rebound by 6.3% in 2020. So since 2020, the agricultural sector is growing. We took the turn for the better. And that brings great hope that the agricultural sector can reposition it as the priority sector in the Namibian economy.
Nou ja, daarmee kom ons dan nou aan die einde van die program, maar voordat ek groet, loer ons vinnig na die veilings wat in die komende week plaasvind. Ons kyk ook hoe lyk die landboudagboek en dan natuurlik die vleispryse. Goed, op die 12de Oktober het Blouberg by Grootfontein 'n veiling, NLA by Mariental, Agri by Hoogveld en dit is natuurlik die Hoogveld gesamentlike produksieveiling. Donderdag die 13de het NLA by Kalkrad en Keetmanshoop veilings en die een op Keetmanshoop is die Swakara Elite veiling. Agri het op Aminois en Otjiwarongo veilings, as ook hier in Windhoek by die Agra Bank Windhoek Ring, die Sim Extravaganza veiling. Dan op die 14de Vrydag WLA wat by Gobabis 'n veiling het, Blouberg by Otawi, NLA op Mariental en Agra by Grootfontein. En dan volgende Dinsdag die 18de Oktober NLA by Kois en Agra wat veilings het by Okakarara en op Rehoboth. Nou ja, die ander groot geleentheid op die landbou dagboek, buite nou die NLE Agri braai wat die naweek plaasvind, waar ons nou reeds gesels het, ja, almal gaan weer eens Namibië se suideboere se gasvryheid daar kan geniet, is die 18de Oktober hier in Windhoek die Brahman Symposium, en dit vind plaas in die Agrabank Windhoek Ring by die skougronde. Dit begin om 10:00 die oggend en dan word dit gevolg deur die nasionale Brahman veiling die aand ook daar by die ring. Die vleispryse van die week van 3de Oktober kan julle dan sien daar die abattoirs Meatco, Beefcore en Meatco in die NCA. Ons sal ook begin om die nuwe skaap uitvoer abattoir daar op Mariental, Farmers Meat Market, die herleefde Farmers Meat Market, se slagpryse vir julle deur te gee. Maar daar kan julle daai veilingspryse sien en dan wat die, dit is dan die abattoirpryse en wat die veilingspryse betref hier aan die regterkant van die skyfie tollies wat verkoop het verlede week gemiddeld vir 38 Namibiese dollar 87 sent per kilogram verse, $35.82 sent, stoorosse $32.08, stoorverse 32 Namibiese dollar 82 sent, slagosse $31.91 sent, slagverse $32.82 sent, koeie afhangend van hoe vet of maar hulle was, tussen $24.85 en $31.73 gemiddeld per kilogram, slagbulle $29.69, slagskape, dorpers en vetsterte onderskeidelik $37.07 en $37.55, bokke stuk gemiddeld $1,397 en koeie met kalvers $14,443 Namibiese dollar. Nou ja, dit bring ons aan die einde van vandag se program. Ek wens julle almal baie geseënde week toe. Ons hou die reën met groot belangstelling dop. En ja, hierdie versengende hitte is besig om ons almal onder te kry, maar hopelik teen volgende week hierdie tyd het daar al 'n paar druppels geval. Totsiens.
Vir meer as 40 jaar vertel Republikein al die stories van Namibië en sy mense. Bly in druk en aanlyn op hoogte van die belangrikste nasionale nuus in Afrika se unieke glimlagland en gemeenskapnuus uit die noorde, ooste, suide en weste. Tubestil help niemand nie, so raak deel van die eg Namibiese tradisie van saampraat en deel jou foto's en video's. Republikein is al dekades bekend vir sy daaglikse Sê maar net rubriek, deur verslaggewers van die koerant en onderleesers se nuwe gunstelinge tel Vrydag se fokusartikel en die stof tot nadenke in ons mense op Dinsdae. In die rubriek vertel ons van raakvatters en deurdrukkers in wie se are die liefde vir Namibië prys. Kyk ook jou Namibiese sport en landbounuus. Republikein se Engelstalige seksie oor sake, finansies en die ekonomie, Market Watch, word as een van die bestes in die land beskou en die koerant publiseer weekliks en maandeliks invoegsels oor 'n verskeidenheid onderwerpe, soos jeug- en skolesake, eiendom, motors, loopbane en hope meer. Jou land, jou taal, jou koerant.